Okay, so in this part of the lecture, we basically going to be getting into the topic of import of services. So import of services has its own tax criteria as well. It's not as straightforward as like import of goods. Let's just say, just get this into your mind. If there's going to be VAT on an import of a service, you will never be able to claim back that VAT. Just get that into your mind. You will never be able to claim back that VAT. Whereas with the import of a good, which we've discussed, if you are going to be using it for taxable supplies and you're a registered VAT vendor, you'll likely be able to claim back, the actual input VAT. In that regard, if you're going to be using the imported, item in a way that it's going to be used as a taxable supply, then you'll definitely be able to claim back your input VAT. Whereas with import of a service, just know that once you have an import of a service, you will never be able to claim back VAT if VAT was charged on an import of a service. And the reasoning behind that as well is that we'll quickly find out that it's quite difficult for SARS to be able to basically trace transactions that would be an import of a service. So that's why basically so let's just get that. So an import of a service, if you claim VAT on an import of a service, you will never be able to claim it back, and if you're not going to be able to claim, if there was no VAT on it, then you'll never be able to claim it back. Whereas if there was VAT on an import of a service and you're going to be using that service in a way that it's an actual taxable supply in your actual business, in that methodology, you'll definitely be able to claim back that import. But whereas if you are not able to claim back an import, a VAT on like an import of the service, you will never be able to claim it back, right? There are certain criteria that will basically elaborate as to why that happens. It can happen in one of the following ways. One, if the imported service is actually an exempt supply, you are not going to be able to claim VAT on it because it's obviously an exempt supply. That therefore means that it's not going to be able to be claimed back. Or two, the actual item was basically supplied to you by a non-vendor as well, So it's either an exempt supply or it was either like an imported service which was basically granted to you by a non-VAT vendor, and it's obviously a service which is coming from somebody who's sitting in a foreign country, and it's a service that's going to be used in South Africa. So in that situation, there will not be VAT claimed in that situation. However, SARS uses the actual principle or process of there not being VAT to actually levy VAT on an import of a service which did not actually have VAT implications onto it. That's when you'll actually be charged VAT on that imported service, which is an exempt portion in most cases, and you'll not be able to actually claim back the actual VAT that you consequently pay over to SARS as an output VAT on an exempt portion of an import service that you likely would have transacted in. And we'll go into an example as to what happens, why is that. Whereas, as we've told you, whereas if it's a normal import of a service that's VATable, you'll definitely be able to claim back your VAT. And as in the case of like a normal imported good, you'll definitely be able to claim back your VAT so long as you're going to be using that actual item as a taxable supply within your actual business. So we'll get into an elaborated example as to why that happens and what are the conditions that would obviously take effect after that happens, and what kind of VAT would obviously be levied over and why you can't claim back that VAT as well. We basically get through to that on the whiteboard and take you through the actual criteria of having to go through as to what happens